Hey Mary, so I'm really excited about doing this with you today. So I want to get you to introduce yourself, and this is the Midlife podcast, and title being like, "Do you eat your feelings?" Kind of red flags, solutions. So if you just introduce yourself.
Hey, Jill. Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Mary Ann, and I am a craving support coach based on emotional eating. It's something that I struggled with many, many, many years. And I had to do it all on my own. And it was very hard. It was very lonely. Nobody understood what I was going through. And when I finally got through it, which I had to make a really huge life change, but I made the change and once I got through it, I said, I'm never, never going to let another person have to go through this by themselves again because I just thought it was absolutely horrible. So that's my mission now is to help women, over 40 overcome emotional eating.
That's amazing. All right, so can you give us like a little brief example of like what emotional eating is and how it kind of differs just from someone maybe just casually overeating?
Sure. Emotional eating is not about the food at all. It's about seeking a feeling. And I know that none of us go, man, I had a bad day. Let's have some M&Ms. I mean, that's not how we think. It's just that that's our go-to because we know sugar, salt, all that stuff is going to make us feel better in the moment. So basically, you're eating to feel a certain way when it comes to emotional eating. Overeating, that could be anything. You can overeat a big giant salad. You can overeat a big giant steak. I mean, it could be anything. And usually that ends up being like somebody who maybe waits too long to eat a meal and so they sit down to this big, huge meal because their eyes are bigger than their stomach and they try to eat the whole thing. And then they're like, oh, I'm stuffed. So overeating isn't really that you're after a certain food. It's just that you're eating too much of whatever is in front of you.
And possibly you're not going to get that. You're not seeking that feeling. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Right, right. Yeah. You're not seeking a feeling. You're just trying to fill your belly.
Yeah, just eating. And so why do a lot of midlife women? Because I think you said you work with a lot of women over 40. So why do midlife women struggle with this? And what are the like common triggers?
So for women in their, the mid 40s, 50s, all of that, there's life changes going on. There could be a career change. There could be kids leaving the home and now they got the empty nester feeling going on. Yeah, there you go. See, um, relationship issues. I mean, that can happen too. So there's a lot of different things that seem to be a common trigger, if you want to say, that happens to women in this period. And if they grew up with food being their go-to, a lot of it comes back to their childhood and how they were brought up. So for them, it's, hey, when I was a kid, mom and dad always gave me food when I was unhappy. So that's what I'm going to go to is food because I've got all these changes going on and I'm stressed. So they turn to food.
Yeah, it's big changes, isn't it? It is a point in your life where there's so many things changing. And do you know what else I think as well? The one thing for me that's been a bit of a like, oh moment, elderly parents.
Yes, that's another one. Yep. And I'm dealing with that myself.
Mm.
You're putting your whole life on hold. You're worried about income. How do you pay your bills? All this stuff because you're taking care of a parent.
Yeah, 100%. So do you think that hormones then can play a part in this when women are maybe going through like perimenopause, menopause? Do you think sometimes there's almost like a, I don't know, where we all do sort of feel a little bit unstable could almost start that?
Yes, estrogen will cause you to want sugar.
Mm.
I know for when you have menopause, you may not sleep very well. You got the cold and the heat and all that. You don't sleep well. Not sleeping well will also trigger the need for sweets. In fact, I can with my clients whenever I see that they've eaten like crazy all day, I look to see how many hours of sleep they had, and I can tell right away that that's why they ate. But
And
yeah,
carb
all of
cravings,
that will
100% carb cravings.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'll see like one carb after the other throughout the whole day. And it was because either they were sick or they didn't get enough sleep. And it's like, yep, I get what's going on there. So, yeah, I mean, menopause does play into all of this as far as emotional eating.
And so, like, why do women suddenly feel so out of control around this time? Is it because they kind of, I don't know, it's a bit of a it's a bit of a curveball, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you're going through all these changes and then suddenly there's something else, like a little sort of right hook, isn't it?
Right. You're absolutely right. And they feel out of control because they don't know what else they should be doing. Everybody thinks, that when you suffer with emotional eating, the only thing you think about is food. This is what I need to do to get through this. I need to eat. Nobody, tells them, hey, you know what? We live in a world of a million different things that a person can do. How about we look for something else to do that will give you the same feeling that food does? And let's go for that. That's something that's healthier that makes you feel good in the moment, but it's going to make you feel good hours, days, weeks later, as opposed to the guilt that comes when you emotionally eat.
Right. And yeah, so it creates like a vicious cycle, doesn't it? Like it's almost a
Absolutely.
little bit like a sort of wheel that you can't, you struggle to get off. And it's almost like that eat, guilt, self-sabotage. And I think you said, I think one of the questions we were going to talk about was like willpower. People, because I think even it, like, obviously you've done exercise classes and stuff like that, and you're a fitness professional too. And people, or there's almost like that, oh yeah, but I'm just lazy, or I lack willpower. And it's not the
Yeah.
case, really, is it?
Nope. No, and willpower is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Mm.
So willpower really has very little to do with this. Um, it really has to come down to changing what's up in here. The way I look at it is I always refer to our brains as like a little 2-year old. It wants what it wants, point blank. And what happens when you tell a little 2-year old you can't have this? Like, I know a lot of clients will say, well, I'm just not going to eat when I get home from work. That's it. I'm just not going to do it. Well, the 2-year old kicks in and has a temper tantrum, basically, because you're telling it no. So if you would tell it, let's go find something else to do, and then we'll come back. Then the brain starts going, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't need to eat something. What's this new thing that you want me to do and focus on? So really, it's about changing what's up in here and not so much about the willpower.
The thought patterns, isn't it? That
Yeah.
again, that sort of thought patterns. And so, like, obviously, you think that that what you're going to do. I think like that you're turning to food, even though you know it's wrong.
Right.
And there is going to
Absolutely.
be that guilty feeling, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Absolutely. Because you keep promising yourself, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And then you find yourself right back again in that same spot, in that same feeling. And then you feel guilty because you feel like I don't like saying the word failed, but that's what I hear a lot. I failed myself. No, you didn't. You're a human being. It's going to happen. But there's ways to change it.
I think women are particularly hard on themselves as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like, even my own experience, I'll do something, I'll be like, no, not good enough, not good enough. So I think we are naturally quite hard on ourselves. So what would be like, maybe there are women that are not actually even aware that this is an issue. Like, so are there like sort of red flags that you would say, oh, actually, are you maybe an emotional eater, or is it people know they are?
No, there's definitely some red flags. One of the big ones is eating in private. You're eating in your car and trying to get rid of the evidence, so to speak, before anybody sees it. You're waiting for your husband, wife, whoever to go to bed at night. So you have the place to yourself to just eat and eat and eat so nobody sees what you're doing. So those are red flags. If you're eating in private, something's not right. Another is basically the whole issue of emotional eating is you're trying to feel better and you're turning to food for that. It's that instant gratification that food gives us. So whenever you feel yourself, like, man, I had a bad day, go grab the M&Ms. That's a red flag. And another red flag that is very common too is the stories that we tell ourselves. So let's say, you say, I'm not going to eat M&Ms, and I don't know why I keep saying M&Ms, but you tell yourself you're not going to eat M&Ms. And so you go to grab them and you tell yourself a story to justify it. Like, I ate nothing but a salad today, so I deserve to have this tonight. That's a red flag. That's a story justifying your action that does not go with your goal. So always pay attention to what's going. Again, it goes right back up in here. Whenever you tell yourself a story, you're going against your goal.
But that's like, as you say, like that they're doing it for the feeling to feel better.
Right.
But does that then necessarily mean they're sad, or like, because as I say, from previous clients, it's been when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're stressed. It's like there's a million reasons.
Yes. You can do it when they're happy.
Hmm.
They celebrate with food. I got this job. Woo, I'm all happy. Let's go eat. And they go right to the food again. Even, some of it's habit too. Like I always, what should we call it? The Super Bowl was just on. And if I say the word Super Bowl, everybody's thinking nachos, chicken wings, pizza. What about the football game? So,
I don't even watch the football game, and I'd still have all those things.
yeah. So I mean, we can eat for many different reasons, and it's not that somebody's hungry. They're celebrating this game by eating.
Mm. But I suppose it's like realizing that there's a reoccurring habit, isn't there? Because
Yeah.
if you're that way inclined, you're going to almost seek that out, aren't you?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do the so how can you like almost start to stop that cycle?
So the first thing I will tell a client to do is to give me a list of at least 5 things that they enjoy doing, and maybe go back to when you were, a kid, the things you enjoyed as a child, or think to any times in their life where they went, man, if I had some free time, I would love to learn how to, or I would love to learn to do this or go here. Make a list. So they'll give me a list of 5 things that they enjoy doing or want to learn how to do. And then I say, okay, now before you eat anything emotionally, I want you to stop. Grab your phone, set a timer for 10 minutes, and do one of these things on your list for 10 minutes. When the 10 minutes is up, if you still want to go eat whatever it is, go ahead. But at least the pattern has been changed. And that's the most important thing, is changing the pattern from trigger, unhappy feeling, grab food, to trigger, unhappy feeling, something different than food. And we're keeping the brain a little quiet because we still know we can go eat afterwards. So it's keeping the brain quiet and it's breaking the cycle. And that's usually how we start off. And then what we'll do is we'll increase the time to like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, so forth and so on, until now the emotional eating is getting further away. And what happens is you get involved, like let's say you're doing a jigsaw puzzle. You get involved with the jigsaw puzzle and the timer goes off and you're like, well, no, I'm too busy right now. I want to finish this one part. And then you don't even worry about the food anymore. So that's usually the first step of what we do.
So what happens if like people don't break the cycle? I suppose is it just like, although it would be weight gain, there's obviously a lot mentally going on, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah. It's very disheartening when somebody struggles to quit this and they just can't seem to do it.
Mm.
It's because it's a habit. It's because they're getting instant gratification, and human beings want instant gratification. We all want. We all want to feel good, and we want to feel good right now. Let's not wait. So you got to be okay with feeling a little discomfort. But I guarantee that discomfort is only going to last a few seconds, as opposed to feeling discomfort for hours because you ate too much and now you're feeling guilty. So, the question is, would you rather feel discomfort for a couple seconds or hours? I would choose the couple seconds.
So you said about instant gratification, which is quite interesting because I don't know, like if it's the same where you are, but over here been a huge rise in like weight loss medication, as in
Yes,
the weight loss injections, like
yes.
Ozempic and to name just one.
Wegovy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I was thinking about this the other day because it was just something that crossed my mind, and I was thinking, okay, well, obviously they work with the GPL1 levels to make you feel kind of like that you're that bit fuller for longer.
yeah.
But how would that affect someone? Like if you're an emotional eater and you want the food to have this feeling, how does that affect you then if you can't have the food? Like
Actually,
how does that work?
yeah, you don't want the food, actually. It kind of shuts that part of your brain.
Or you're breaking up a bit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. What I said was when you're on those kind of drugs, you don't really even want to eat. Like you don't even want to turn to food. So that's all fine and great while you're on those drugs. I mean, hey, goodbye emotional eating. I'm losing weight. I feel wonderful. Life is great. And then your insurance decides that it's not going to pay for it anymore. Then guess what happens? All that emotional eating comes back because you never dealt with it the way you should have dealt with it, and the weight all comes right back again.
Yeah, I suppose I was sort of thinking, well, if you're in that position where you want that to have that feeling, and then you can't have it, your brain's kind of telling you, no, well, actually, you don't want it. Like, there must be quite a little bit of a mess up for your head, mustn't it?
It is. Yep, it absolutely is. And I can't tell you how many clients I've got that were on those drugs
Oh,
and they were
really?
taken off. Yeah, and they were taken off and they've gained the weight back. And they don't know how to stop the emotional eating part because they never dealt with it. That the drugs are just, it's like a switch. They're just switching something off in your brain. And when you're off the drug, you can no longer be on the drugs for whatever reason. That switch goes right back again, and you're right back to where you were. And these people are coming back even heavier than they were when they first started.
That's so sad, isn't it?
I know. I know.
I do think a lot of it is mental. It is not, the physical. Oh, well, you're just overweight because you're lazy, or you're just overweight because you've got no willpower. It's so much deeper than that, isn't it?
It
It-
is just like weight loss surgery. Same
yeah.
thing. I mean, you got to fix what's up here. Otherwise, you're still going to eat.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I think it's easy, isn't it, for the health companies and the pharmaceutical companies to just almost put a little plaster on that bit. But we won't kind of address that bit. We'll just we'll just
Right.
give them the drug. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So what I was going to ask you was, what are practical steps for women who want to stop or that feel stuck in this cycle?
So, kind of going back to finding something else to do. Um, this all goes back to I mentioned it earlier, childhood. Usually, when we're born, and I know you know about mindset too. When we're born, there's a clean slate up here. There's nothing. We don't believe in anything. We don't know anything. But what happens is we get older, and childhood, we get older, we start learning things from other people, whether it be our parents, whoever raised us. Maybe we saw somebody else turn to food when they were upset. All of that develops because of what we see or what we're told. So for us, now that we're adults, we don't have to live that life anymore. Maybe it benefited us when we were kids, but it doesn't benefit us now anymore. So make that step right there, make that new belief that food is not the answer, and then go find something else to do that is the answer for you.
And by doing that, can you sort of almost rewire that pattern and your relationship with food?
Absolutely. You're around my age too, and the ladies that I work with are all around my age. You remember the Rolodex? I don't know if they had them back in. Okay. So you have all those index cards. And I said, that's our brain. You've got all these index cards, and the first ones are turn to food, turn to food. That's the very first card. So when our life, throws curveballs, it looks at that first card and goes, oh, turn to food. So what we have to do is create a new index card that says, nope, I'm going to turn to whatever it is. And that goes right in the front of the Rolodex. And then as we start creating these new beliefs, these new habits, all that old stuff gets pushed way in the back. And now it's harder for your brain to go to those things because it starts from the front and moves to the back. So that's what we have to do. We have to create new index cards in our brains that will go right into the front, and then the old habits gets pushed way in the back.
Is a lot of the coaching programs, not like for even in my coaching programs, I think I even put a social media post out yesterday saying about, it's not so much about the weight loss. It's about the little habits that you need to start stacking. Weight loss is just a byproduct of that. It's not, but it is just those little habits. Your water, your step count, all just them little things. And I think it's just thinking about those rather than, oh my God, I've got on a diet, because
Right,
no one sticks to that anyway, do they?
right, right.
So
And
willpower is
there's
really not enough, is it?
no, no. It is so powerful, Jill, when somebody can choose when they will eat. And I'm going to say M&Ms again. When you choose the time and the place to eat something like an M&M or something like cake, it's so powerful because your emotions are not controlling it anymore. You're controlling it. And that's what I tell my clients. I say, you can't believe how good it feels on the other side. When you can say, you know what, I don't want the M&Ms today, but if I still want it on Thursday, I'm going to have it on Thursday. Thursday comes, you may not even want it because it was just a minute of a craving and it's over and done with. But if Thursday comes, you still want the M&Ms, go have some M&Ms.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful to know that you now control that and not your emotions.
And I think that goes with any kind of for anyone, any woman that wants to maybe just upgrade their diet, their lifestyle. As soon as restrictions are in place, it's all you're thinking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you're right, Mary. You are not having chocolate for the next 6 weeks. Like you're
Right.
going to be eating it by lunchtime, aren't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 If you tell me not to do something, I want to do it even more.
It is just, I think, it's just human nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how important is it for these women to be self-compassionate and again, we spoke about this earlier. We are so hard on ourselves. Oh my God, I've messed it up. Oh, that's it. I've blown it, kind of thing. So we need a
Yeah.
bit of like self-love.
Yeah. I always tell my clients, talk to yourself the way you would talk to a friend. If a friend had a problem, they turned to food. Would you say, yeah, you messed up? What's wrong with you? You would talk to them and say, you know what? It happens. It's okay. You stand right back up and you do better the next time around. It's okay. I would say we're human beings.
Mm.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen even when you think everything is wonderful and great. Life is going well. A curveball happens, and you're just like you're looking at the pizza and the chicken wings, and you're like, you know what? I don't care right now. I'm going to eat it. That's all right.
Some of them. I use on one of my programs, I use like a coaching app. So within the app, the girls can track their food. It's optional. If they want to do it, they can track their food. And then in one of the parts, it will show you like their body weight. And I have to like take pictures and show some of the other girls, and I'm like, the body weight goes like this. It is not a line down here. This is like it's up,
Yep.
it's down. And
Yep.
a lot of the other girls, they're all like, if I go on it in the afternoon, I'll be thinking like one beer, crisps, but they put their stuff in because they know they're going to eat it in the evening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're already putting it in. And I'm like, but it is fine. If you want
Yes.
those things, have those things. But don't let maybe one bad mistake turn into a shit show of a week.
Absolutely.
And sort of, as you say, be self-compassionate and be like, okay, all right, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but there you go. Now I'm gonna move forward. I think that's sometimes where it's that all or nothing trap, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep. All or nothing. And you know what? Sometimes I'll have a client like not turn in a log and they say, oh, my day was horrible. It was just horrible. So I'm like, can you tell me what you did? Like, what's so horrible? Then they tell me, and I'm like, that's not bad. Like, we are so hard on ourselves. And,
Mm.
let somebody else kind of take a look because you know what? It probably isn't all as bad as you think it is, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And I think, as soon as you put restrictions in there, so a little bit of what you fancy sometimes does you good.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think? So how does exercise come into this? Like, I do a lot of strength training with my ladies. Um, More so, obviously, muscle mass, metabolism, osteoporosis, all those things. So how can exercise help if someone's trying to break the cycle?
Yep. Walking actually is one of the things I recommend for ladies to do if they're feeling emotional. Go take a 5-minute walk someplace. It not only, obviously it's good for your legs, it's good for your heart, all of that, but it's good for you mentally. The feel good hormones start flying all over the place. You start feeling better. You can walk out in nature, even better, a little sunlight. But exercise just totally makes you feel so much better afterwards. And I know sometimes it's like, I don't feel like doing it, but I don't think I've met anybody who's regretted how they
Mm,
felt afterwards.
no,
So just do it. It'll make you feel so much better physically and mentally.
that's the hard part, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
the whether you're working out at home or working out in the gym, it's the starting it. And I try and say to like, just start, just give yourself a bit like with the food, like what you're saying with the food. Just give yourself 5 minutes and
Yes.
see how you feel in 5 minutes. And
Yep.
if you feel right in 5 minutes, do 10.
Yep.
It's just kind of edging, isn't it? Just getting that
Yep.
little like, just big, as you said, no one regrets working out ever, do they? Um,
No.
so what's a powerful mindset shift like that you would say, like for like I say, if there's women that maybe are listening that are stuck in this cycle and maybe just feel stuck, don't really know how to, like they're in this loop and they need to take that sideward step out of it.
Right. I, this this sounds kind of harsh, but you got to be okay with feeling uncomfortable for a little bit. It, there's a term called surfing the urge, and what that is basically like when you ride a wave, you're going up and down. That's the same thing with food. You've got that intense, you're building up. You've got that intense. If you do nothing, you don't turn to food, you don't turn to something else. You just sit and you just ride the ups and downs of how that craving feels. I guarantee you, just like a wave, it goes up, it goes down, a few seconds, it's over and done with, and you're fine. So be okay with that. Be okay with riding the emotions. We're humans. We're going to have emotions. We're going to have feelings. It's okay to feel it. It gets better. The more we adjust to feeling a little bit of a stress, feeling a little down, it actually gets easier. It really does.
Do you think as well it's that feeling of being very uncomfortable because like when we spoke earlier, we were saying, like our brains do really play some terrible tricks on us sometimes.
They
That
do.
whole comfort zone thing. And as much as you know that you should be doing, I mean, for exercise, for argument's sake, or like not sort of turning to food for that gratification, our brains are like, oh no, like it wants to keep you in that safe place, doesn't it? It is
It
that sort
does.
of like comfort.
Yep. Yep. That's the thing with our brains. The number one job of our brain is to keep us safe. That's
Mm,
all it wants to do. And if we attempt to do anything, any change whatsoever, it's going to go to that Rolodex in our brain and go, hey, has she done this before? Oh, I've never seen that she's done this before. I think maybe we should tell her it's going to be a bad idea. And then they start throwing stories in your head. Same thing with weight loss. It goes, oh, has she done this before? Oh, she has. And she didn't succeed. All right, so we don't have to worry she's not going to succeed this time around. And we'll just tell her it costs too much money or she doesn't have the time right now. I mean, it's going to keep trying to keep you exactly where you are. Even if you're miserable,
yeah,
unhappy, unhealthy, it doesn't matter. It just wants you to stay where you are, which I think is sad because that's your own brain.
yeah. It's so true, isn't it? I,
Yeah.
I, literally- I literally was on a business thing last night, listening to that we were going through some of this, and it was like, kind of reasons people don't go, like, say, buy your program for argument's sake, or your
Right.
course, or whatever you are offering.
Right.
And it was all about like the brain going, nah, like you don't know, you're never going to do this, don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do tell yourself. It sounds like my mum. My mum talks to me like that. No, don't be silly.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, when I mean, I say I appreciate your time. I know you've got a little pop up there. So you said you said that you started this because you felt that like you didn't have the support. Like maybe do you wish you knew you back then?
Oh boy, do I. It people don't understand, especially with emotional eating. People don't understand what goes on unless you've lived it, unless you've walked in those shoes. Because I got like horrible advice, like, well, if you want potato chips, why don't you buy some carrots that have the little ridges in it, so it'll be like eating the ridged potato chips. How is that going to help me? That doesn't do anything for me. Or just stop buying. Just don't buy the stuff. Why are you buying the stuff, Mary Ann? Just stop buying it. It's like you don't understand the pull the food has.
That's surely like telling an alcoholic to just not buy alcohol, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't work
That's
like that.
simple.
Yeah, it's not like that. So I wish I did have me. I wish I did.
But so obviously you're do so do you do is it online what you do like is or people are you doing face to face or like what are you doing now to help women?
It is online. It's all online. Um, one to one. I don't do groups as of this point because I think everybody's journey is different,
Mm.
and I think in some cases too, it's a little personal. And I don't want, people feel like they can't talk to me about stuff. So I do all online coaching one on one.
That's amazing and helping lots of women and you can relate.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, I'm going to post all your details anyway, so people can find you on Instagram and on Facebook, and we'll get all your details out there. And honestly, I really appreciate this. This has been a nice. It's a hard subject, but it's one that just needs to be out there so much more.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
don't think it's spoken about enough, if I'm being completely honest.
Right. I agree.
Do you? I think it's a little bit of a, like menopause has come out and it's now like, I want to say a buzzword, but like it is being thrown around. I don't know if it's as popular where you, as again, where you are as it is over here. It's like, everyone's sort of speaking about it now. But this subject, I don't think people are. And I think
No.
because it's almost like, it's not a secret, but I suppose again, it maybe is a secret for women.
And I think sometimes women don't, well, anybody who's an emotional eater, I don't think they realize they're an emotional eater at times until you label it. And then some people don't want to be labeled an emotional eater. So, I mean, I do get that sometimes where they're just like, don't call me that. I don't want to be referred to that. And I'm like, well, you're turning to food to feel a certain way. That's emotional.
Yeah.
So, in some cases, they don't quite understand the terminology or what it is that they're doing. They just want to feel good. And hey, it happens to be food.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think we can definitely do a part 2 of this.
Yep. Yeah.
So
I could
thank
talk
you.
about this all day.
Me too, though. It's so interesting. And again, when you're dealing with clients all the time, you should know these things. If you're a coach to midlife women, you need to be listening to this stuff to
Yep.
be able to recognize
Absolutely.
it within your own clients, within your own clients.
Right.
So thank you
Right.
for today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Right.